now in my business, I think where I tend to make a mistake and I really fight myself not to do it is when something's going really good as an entrepreneur, I want to break it and make it better. And I think that's a disease we all have, right? We want to scale, and do more and do this and do that. It's just letting something good be good.
All right, guys, here we go now. It is time to unlock more doors to deals. We're real estate investors here. We're real estate agents here, and we all have one thing in common. We believe that we can. We can live the life of our purpose. We can create financial freedom. We can build a better life for those that we love, and we can live the life of our dreams. I don't care if you're trying to do your first deal or your 500th this year. You can get to the next level, and we're here to help. Welcome to Doors to Deals. I'm your host and founder, Jim Manning. Today's episode can be found on doorstodeals.com/030, and it's all about how Don Costa has built a flipping machine in California that does over 120 flips a year. To put this into perspective, the most flips that Ryan and I have ever done with Three Doors Properties is over 70. So literally he's averaged nearly double the amount of projects that we were doing. And we had 3 full-time construction project managers in our heyday when we were rocking and rolling and doing over 70 a year. So Don breaks down his process for managing contractors, who he looks for, how he finds them in this episode. He's a wealth of knowledge, and I know you'll enjoy this episode and get as much out of it as I did. So before we jump in, let's go into our iTunes review of the week.
This week's iTunes review comes to us from 59th Street Hoosier, titled Best Real Estate Podcast, Hands Down. 5 stars. Hoosier writes, with years of real estate experience, Jim Manning's podcast is a wealth of knowledge and can be applied to anyone who is currently or will be investing in real estate. I listen to every episode and they keep getting better. Well done, Jim. Hoosier, thank you for your review. Jim, back to you.
G-Funk, my 59th Street Hoosier. I know that's you, man. There can only be one other 59th Street Hoosier. 59th is actually where 13 years ago, the street where I was living, where this whole thing started. Well, technically everything started out of my parents' basement, unfinished basement, but the first place I moved was off 59th Street. And anyway, yeah, I know who you are, man, and I appreciate your friendship, and thank you so much for the comment. You're the man. So don't forget to throw us some love by leaving a review. It really does fill our bucket, and it motivates us to keep on doing what we do and trying to do everything we can to provide you with the best content possible. So please write that review and rate our podcast if you haven't already. So, all right, let's get into the episode, guys. All right, guys, Jim here. Got another amazing guest here on our Doors to Deals podcast. We have Don Costa on the line. And Don, you've done a lot of amazing things. You kind of, one of the things that's just kind of off the bat that really has impressed me about you is just the volume of flips that you've been able to do. So I'm really excited to kind of dive into that. But why don't you kind of just start out, kind of give us your background, how you got into real estate, and just tell us a little bit more about yourself, man.
Yeah, I have, first of all, I'm a husband and a father. I have 3 kids, 2 boys, 15 and 16, a daughter that's 6. And that's my world. Obviously, I always say my hobby is my business. I do my business. I don't golf. I don't do anything that most guys do. I love the challenge of building businesses, and then my family is everything else. So, I am a rehabber by nature. That's where I started. I started back in 2003, door knocking, pre-foreclosures. Found I had a knack for basically, if you were going to sell a home, you were going to sell it to me. And I had a knack for raising private money and put a business together. So I have 2 lives in this business, and I'll explain that in a second. But started in 2003, never made money before in my life, didn't come from money, and made a lot of money real easy. And if we all remember the market in 2003, 4, and 5, it was one of those markets that hid a bad business. Like if you ran a bad business, you made a lot of mistakes, it actually rewarded you. And so I was fooled into thinking that everything I touched turned to gold. And I was a bad leader, a bad business person, but I was making so much money. It was stupid, right? And I was starting other businesses. I had a real estate company, a property management company, a mortgage company, multiple offices. I was starting a sunglass line. I opened a restaurant and nightclub. So because I thought the money was never going to end. And then when 2008 came, I wasn't surrounded by the right people. I didn't have the right knowledge, and I wasn't running a good business. And so over a period of a couple of years, I proceeded to lose everything. So from about 2008 till about 2011, I literally lost everything. When I finally came up for air, I had $1 million judgment against me. I got a $679,000 judgment against me in 2010, but by 2012, when I restarted my business with attorney's fees and interest, it became $1 million, just shy of millions, like 900,000 and change. So I ended up in a bigger hole than most people will probably ever see in their life. I was in depression. Basically, I couldn't buy gas. I was going to the gas station with quarters, buying a gallon at a time, going to the grocery store with a calculator, having my wife call me from the grocery store crying. She had a cart full of groceries, or a debit card wouldn't clear. I mean, I was broke. My house was in and out of foreclosure 3 times. The good thing was I knew how to work the system, and I didn't lose my home, but it was bad. But it was a wake up call for me. I thought that real estate was what destroyed me. And when I finally took a self assessment in around 2011, 2012, I realized that that was really all I was good at, was identifying a deal and putting the pieces together to make money. So in around December, January of 2011, 12, I put an ad on Craigslist, basically sitting on a couch, just sitting there one day, and put an ad on Craigslist and said, experienced flipper looking for a private money backer, must be close enough to have a cup of coffee. And I had 6 people call me, and met with one, and the guy would talk for hours, and I was trying to get him to commit to me to close, to fund me on deals. And I thought at the time, like, I didn't even realize wholesaling wasn't even computing. It wasn't even in the matrix for me. So I thought at the time I had to rehab again. So I remember sitting in the last meeting with the guy, and he was talking and talking and talking. And I had to pee so bad I didn't want to leave that meeting. We're at Starbucks, and I get a text from my wife that our water had been shut off. And it was a Friday. And I was like, oh, do I go home and solve this problem, or do I sit here and close this guy? And it was like, that was the fire in my belly to close the guy. And I got the guy to commit to doing a deal. I went home and turned my water on myself, because being a rehabber, I knew how to do that, and I figured out how to pay the bill the next week. But the guy committed, and so roughly I think May we found a property, June we closed on it of 2012. By September we made 20 grand on that rehab flip, and I got 10 grand. It was a 50-50 split. He put up the money and I did the work. And so I had 10 grand in my pocket. It was proof of concept again. Now that money was gone by the time I got it. Obviously I was so broke, but it was still proof of concept. And then I bought 2 the next month, and then I bought 1, then 3. And then I just slowly started building momentum into the business I have today. So long-winded story.
Oh, and there's a lot here, man.
Right.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So take me back. So you said so you started making money flipping. Mm-hmm. And before you lost anything, you then opened up how many businesses? You had a restaurant?
At a restaurant and nightclub. I had a property management company, a mortgage company, and a real estate company. And I had 3 offices. I had one in Fresno, one in Selma, California, and then one in San Jose. And we had, I think the mortgage company had 40 something agents. The real estate company, we had somewhere around 30 agents. I mean, we weren't huge, we weren't small. It was just, the moral of the story is I wasn't a good business person. I was a bottleneck in my organization. I had these businesses going, and they were very cash intensive businesses to a large degree, in some cases like the restaurant and nightclub. All decisions had to go through me. And so I didn't have a true leadership team. I just didn't have a real business, if that makes sense. And, even though I had all these things going on, I was making all this money, I didn't have the right pieces in place for any of them.
So you're generating a lot of revenue, but you're not keeping any of it.
Yeah. I'm not keeping any of it. Mm-hmm.
So just kind of a side note on this, guys, I see one of the most common mistakes I see entrepreneurs make when they're starting out is just this. Mm-hmm. They'll start out, they'll be a year in, and they'll think, oh, okay, well, I know what I'm doing now. I'm going to start coaching. Well, coaching is a completely separate business, whether it's a restaurant, nightclub, a mortgage company, you name it. And when you start out and you get all of these additional businesses, everything suffers, and you start to not do one thing well. And the one thing that was really the thing that was making you money, you start to kind of suck at it because your attention's spread out too thin. I mean, it's gone so far as and I'm a huge believer in masterminds, but whenever I'm networking or meeting somebody new, And if I hear this story of, hey, I own all of these things, I used to be impressed by it. And I used to really think, oh man, this guy's amazing. Now I kind of, it's like a red flag, like, okay, there's probably some trouble here in this person's business. That that they're probably not doing as well as it sounds or as it feels. And then if I run into somebody else that's like, oh yeah, I do tax credit renovations, I flip homes, that's all I do. It's like that person's probably doing pretty well because it's like they're so laser focused, right? So I mean, I see that trend over and over again. And Don, I kind of be interested in your perspective on this. What I kind of think is like we see like an Amazon, or we see like some of these companies that do a bunch of different things, and we think, oh, okay, well that's what business is. But like when a Netflix or when an Amazon started, the only thing that they did was they sold used book. I think it was just used books online. They were like a book website. And then when you master that, and I don't know how many years it took them to master that, but it can be maybe even a 5-10 year process. Then at that point, okay, I have everything set up now. Maybe it's time to branch out. Like Don, what do you think on that?
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth. You got to master it. You got to pick a lane and master that lane, whether it's the business or even right down to the marketing, right? Like you shouldn't be doing 5 different marketing channels when you start marketing. You need to master one and then start to layer the ones on. And you got systems and processes, KPIs, you got, key performance indicators, you got the people. And all those things have to come into place properly to have a real business. I do 2 things now, but I have my real estate operation has an A team in place, and I'm not a bottleneck. They can make their decisions. They can run their departments, and they do what they do great. And so now I'm doing other things, but a lot of people try to chase somebody else's highlight reel, and they're trying to start 5 businesses at once. And that's where the mistake happens. That's where the mistake was for me. No business got the attention it deserved. No business got the capital it deserved. And no business had the team it needed to really operate properly. And so the example of Amazon that you use is perfect. They stayed in their lane for, probably 20 years, actually. If you really think about it, would they start in like 90 something? And they didn't really branch out until about a decade ago or so. Mm-hmm. So, and that's what real businesses do. They build a solid foundation and they build a real business. And then the next thing they go to, they start to build a real business around that. And then the next thing they go to, so on and so forth.
And you typically have a core competency that you've mastered that then can be applied to these other businesses. And there's like a synergy and a value add behind it. Right.
Right. And it doesn't depend on you. And that's the big thing. Like, I guarantee you that Jeff Bezos is not the one that is, behind Amazon, Prime Video, right? In the development of videos. Like he's not the bottleneck. He doesn't have his finger on everything that's happening. That's when it becomes a real business. And that's when you can start to layer things in, is when not every single thing depends on you and your decision-making and your effort.
So what would you say your kind of core competency is in business, like kind of your sweet spot, what you're really, really good at?
I'm really good at problem solving. I think that's the best way to put it. And I can look at a whole operation, and figure out where the pieces are missing and make it profitable. That is something that I feel that I am like a Superman at. So a lot of us, especially in the rehab industry, there's a way we're taught to do something. And the way we're taught to do something with skin in the game, and the way we manage projects, and the way we pay contractors, and the way we borrow money. Most rehabbers are scaling broke constantly. They're chasing their tail. They're scaling. They have a ton of money out in projects, and they're not really making money in their business. And, there's things like, for instance, thinking outside the box, the way I borrow 100%. I will not borrow from a lender unless they give me 100% of the money. I do not have any skin in any project when it comes to borrowing, because I am a better business person if I'm operating my business from a position of power and my money's in the bank. I'm a better bet from a lender standpoint if my money's in the bank and I'm not making rash decisions because I need to pay rent or something, right? So I borrow 100%. I put a line item in my loans for the cost. So you have your average cost per deal. Let's just say your average cost per deal is $2,500. I put a line item on every loan. That's a cost for the deal. My lender lends me 100% of my cost per deal is holding cost, project cost, and purchase cost. So a cost per deal is my acquisitions cost. So now my marketing, instead of being an expense in my organization, becomes a net neutral because now I'm borrowing that money back. If I do 10 deals a month and I borrow $2,500 per deal, I'm getting $25,000 a month back in my business to market. So the way I look at my business and the way I look at other people's businesses, I can help move the pieces to show you now how to streamline, systematize, and make your business profitable even when you're scaling, which is, again, in the rehab industry, you know, as I'm assuming as a rehabber, is super hard to do.
No question about
It is, Don. This is Ryan. I apologize for my tardiness. There was a little fire I had to put out here at the office. I want to kind of piggyback on Jim's last question. Your core competency, you mentioned that you do two things. So I'm suspecting one of those things is problem solving. What are the two things you do?
Well, problem solving is the one I answered, and being able to look at a business and move the pieces and to make it functional. You know, to look at the whole business and to figure out the right system, right, the right process. A lot of us will have a problem in our business, and we'll feel like that's the way we have to work through it. And again, it all goes back to problem solving. I look at a problem. Okay, what's the answer? For instance, communication in your organization. You have bad communication because everybody's texting, emailing, calling, right? So Slack is and a lot of people know about the tool now in the industry, but Slack's a great tool. In our organization, we're not allowed to text or email about a project. All communication for that project goes in that project channel, period. And so there's no who approved this and what happened to that, right? 100%. If we have a conversation, you and I right now, one of us is going to Slack it and document that conversation.
So it's your timing on this is hilarious because this is a conversation we were having with our team literally this morning because we're in email and we're using Teams, which is the same thing as Slack. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and we're getting feedback like we don't know which one to look at. But everything has a system. Everything can be more or an organization. So that's kind of your sweet spot on that. So okay. So tell me more about that communication then. So like everyone has to use Slack. Like what else is going on with that?
Well, Slack for us is a great channel for project management, right? When the second we open a contract, we have a certain, format we want things in Slack. So when our TC opens the Slack channel, she'll put, information in like, purchase price, contact information, close of escrow date, projected profit. And then it says if we assign the project that, the assignment will be stuck in that, they'll be edited and it'll be there. So there's one spot where we look for all project information, what we're expected to make, when we're expected to close, who we need to contact. It's in that one spot. And then all communication, again, all documents, all communication, all pictures, go into the Slack channel for that project through the transaction coordination of us buying it. And if we keep it as a rehab, then the project management all goes to, all communications in Slack, and then the TC when we close. So you can go through when we close a project and you can see the entire history of communication for that project from the time we have opened that project to the time we've closed that project. And we're very disciplined about that at this point in time because there's too much of, well, who approved this? And where'd that come from? And I forgot, it's like it's all there. And we have a very systematized way, like I said, the way we structure the channel when we open it. So all key information is right up on top.
That's awesome. So let's kind of dive into kind of like, 127 flips a year, or like, what have you been averaging again?
About 130. Yeah. So we're in the last couple of years, we've averaged about 130 flips and about 60 wholesales. So, we sit near the 200 deal mark is kind of where we've traditionally landed.
Okay. And so let's kind of talk, how do you organize and what are some of your systems that you recommend for managing 130 flips is a ton. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a tremendous amount. So how are you doing that?
So, the big, again, systems and processes, a structure. One of the key things is the contractors. We use general contractors. We use general contractors that have teams. That's the first place we start. We don't start with anybody who subs because you can't get good pricing with somebody who's paying subs. We don't manage subs ourselves because it's like herding cats. So our project managers manage the manager. So we find contractors, usually somebody that is in the kind of newer, they're 2 or 3 years into the game. They're not brand new. They have enough experience to be good, but they're not so set in their ways that, again, they're expensive, and we can kind of mold them. We look at the contractors we use kind of like our internal team. We're looking for somebody that's coachable and teachable, so that we can kind of guide them and mold them into the systems and processes we use in our organization. They have to have their own team. So they have to have employees. And that way we get the pricing. We essentially get the sub pricing from general contractors. Because again, you were promising consistent work. They're not so far in the game that they know how much they can, usually get away with pulling on people. And they have a team that they're paying. So their overhead is hourly instead of having to pay other subs. So that's number one.
So as far as the employees go, they had the subs, what would traditionally be a sub is like an actual team member on there. Okay.
Yeah. And they'll generally have one guy that's really good at like tile and plumbing and electrical, but most of their guys, they'll have like a couple guys that are really good at demo and, some other, minor stuff. And then maybe a guy or two that's really good at painting. They usually have anywhere from 4 to 6 guys in their team. But they traditionally, they usually have that one lead guy that's just good at kind of following up and making sure everything's right. So, and again, we treat them like, I don't look at somebody who makes a mistake as a failure and somebody that I need to cut loose. If they're teachable and coachable, we take the time to develop, even our external teams. So we'll take the time to develop them. And when we hire, for instance, like I want to see a project they're working on, they're in the middle of, and I want to see a project that's finished. I want to see a project they're in the middle of when we're interviewing them, because I want to see how they're running the job. Is it safe? Is it clean? Is it organized? Does the timeline match with what they're telling me? If I show up and they're supposed to be halfway done, they have nobody there. Like a project, nobody ever asks to see, what are you working on right now? Let me go see something you're working on. That what's happening that day when you show up is going to tell you so much about how that contractor manages his business. Number one. Then when I want to see a finished project, I don't want to see a finished project because I want to see how perfect the guy is. I actually want to find that one thing that I can pick out that's a mistake. I'm looking for a mistake. I'm hoping for a mistake because I want to see how they handle the criticism. And if they blame anybody else, then they're not getting a job with me. If they take responsibility, then they're probably going to get a project because that means they're teachable and coachable, right? And so one of the best contractors I've ever hired that I've worked with since 2012 has basically, I picked out something. He said, if you have a problem with anything I do, we'll fix it. That was his response. And because I said, hey, this tile doesn't meet my standard of quality. And he's like, if you have a problem with anything I do, I'll fix it. And I was like, all right, well, let's give you one project and see how you do. So, it's the mindset behind everything we do. We're very meticulous about the hiring process, the training process. We have structure, like, for instance, we don't do any deposits. We don't do any deposits at all in any way, shape, or form. I don't believe in them. I'm allergic to them. And I feel like that it just sets you up for bad business. The deposits and the what's the word? We don't do it. So I'm trying to think of the word, but the 3 payment system, the draws. We don't do that because every time you pay a large deposit, they're supposed to be done by a certain, to a certain point by a certain day. They're not there, but they need their draw because they got to pay their people. We've all heard the song and dance. So they got to buy materials. They got to do this. They got to do that. So they draw early, and pretty soon they've drawn next to everything, and the project's nowhere near being done. How many of us have run into that? We pay weekly. We don't do deposits. You bill me the Friday before. So you pre-bill me. You tell me what you're going to finish the next week. And if it's done by the next Friday, then we'll pay you that next Friday. So if you bill me and you say, we're going to do demo and we're going to frame in and, maybe do one other thing, put drywall by next Friday. If it's done by next Friday, you get your check by next Friday. That one system, right, solves so many things. One is now I'm controlling the money. I'm making you set a goal and you're only getting paid for work completed. My team on Monday comes in and reviews the invoices and actually cuts the checks on Monday. Okay. They submit a report to our private money lenders. So our private money lenders have transparency. If for whatever reason, our private money lenders have us do draws, sometimes they do draws. I actually prefer it that way. I don't want their money in the bank until I need it. I'll get the draw in Wednesday or Thursday, and then I'll deploy the capital on Friday. So contractor set a goal. We know what our cash liability is. We have the cash in, and then we deploy it. It solves cash flow. It solves transparency, and it creates efficiency in our organization. Whenever we have to fire a contractor, which doesn't happen that often, we fire them on Friday. We have a new one in there on Monday. And the last time we did it, I think we lost $1,500 on the project. Now, we didn't lose money, but I'm saying, we were $1,500 over what we expected to spend because we're controlling the money. The only way to control a contractor and the only way to control a timeline is to control the money. If you don't control the money, you don't have control of the money, you don't have control of anything.
Okay, so just repeat that process one last time. You said they're due on the Friday before, that Monday they come in. So they've invoiced you based off that previous week of work on that Friday.
No, they've invoiced you. They pre-invoice you.
Pre-invoice. Okay, that's what I thought. So then, so then you cut the check on Monday or have it cut. Mm-hmm. So let's say, for instance, you just mentioned 3 things. They were going to do demo and another thing in drywall. Well, let's say they do 2 out of those 3. What happens?
So that's a great question, and it really depends on our relationship with the contractor. There's, if you are new or newer with us, we're probably going to either not give you the check until the remainder is finished, or we'll recut the check for the portion that you completed, depending on how comfortable we are with the situation. If you're somebody that we've worked with for years and say we have this happen, painting the exterior was something you're supposed to do, but it rained in the middle of the week and you weren't able to do it, but we've worked with you so much we know you're going to show up on Saturday and actually do it, we're probably going to give you your check. See, the cool thing about having systems, like when you set a boundary, you're in control. Everything I do is about control. I mentioned earlier before you came on about being in a position of power, right? Everything I do is about being in control. And then if we decide to come off of that boundary, it's still within our control. And as long as you maintain control of your money and your systems and your process in your organization, you're going to be able to run an efficient organization. It's not perfect. I make it sound, I want to be very clear. You're still going to have challenges. You're still going to have people that make you insane, but at least you remove 99% of the variables that most people struggle with in a rehab business. And the moral of the story is that we have a lot more efficiency and we meet our deadlines and we meet our budgets a lot more often than most. And I have money in the bank by the way I borrow, and I'm able to run a business where I can go to sleep at night knowing that I can do what I say I'm going to do when I say I'm going to do it, and I don't have to worry about paying my bills.
Okay, so let's move on to a similar question in that one of the things we struggled with personally in trying to gear up and do more renovations is having project managers manage these, the workload of the project managers and the workload of contractors. So do you have parameters as to how many projects a particular contractor can be on and how many someone can manage at one time?
Hey guys, for those of you that are local to St. Louis, I wanted to make sure you knew about an amazing resource that we have to help do some extra deals. You can email our team at deals@3doors.com. And just so you know, we do deals with other investors all the time. Like, it's been hundreds and hundreds over the years, and we've averaged over 100 deals with other investors per year for over the last 5 years. We can straight up buy the deal if you have a wholesale under contract that you want to sell. If you need funding to finance a flip, or like you're doing a burst strategy, we have funding available for you. If you're trying to wholesale a deal, we're doing JV wholesale deals with other wholesalers that, quite frankly, some of the deals we're putting together for a beginner or an intermediate investor, they'd probably be walking away from because we have systems and processes and we have buyers in place that are paying top dollar for these properties. So make sure you use this resource. And the best way to get and the easiest way is to just send us an email, deals@3doors.com. All right, back to the episode.
Do you have parameters as to how many projects a particular contractor can be on and how many someone can manage at one time?
Yeah, so our contractors, we're only allowing them to be on about 3 at a time, and we don't let them start all at once. You have to stagger the start, obviously, but about 3 is really anything beyond that. Even our best contractors, I feel like, is pushing it. Now, with that said, that's 3 per team, and so I have a couple contractors that have more than one team, and so they can handle a few more projects. But it's all case by case. The other question you had was project managers. Our project managers, look, we had 65. I have 2 project managers. We had 65 projects from, either we put them in the pipeline or we're getting ready to close the sale on them. And we had like repair requests and stuff like that at one point in the beginning of 2019, and the wheels came off the bus. We had cracks in the organization. We had 65 in inventory, and that was rough. I'm not going to lie. But for the most part, up until around that point, our project managers can handle quite a few projects. But the reason we can handle so many is because, again, the way we look at it, we don't buy materials. Like a lot of people have their project manager sourcing materials, picking up materials, doing that kind of stuff like that. Like our contractors have to buy materials. Our contractors, when we get a bid, the bid is for labor and material included. If you're going to do the baseboard in our operation, in our house, it's $1 a linear foot installed, material and labor included. And we go through, we pre-negotiate each year. We sit down with our contractors and we pre-negotiate standardized pricing. And so, a light fixture in a house, a certain light fixture will be $40 installed, material and labor included. When they bid us, they line item bid us, and they'll say 10 of these lights, 750 linear feet of baseboard, X amount of plugs and switches, and everything has a pre-negotiated standardized price, and that's materials and labor included. And so then they go pick up the materials. All my team is doing is setting timelines and checking on things. They're not running around picking up materials, and are not running around solving problems. They're just making sure that the timelines are met, that the quality is what it's supposed to be. So the insanity really is if we have projects like, if we have a project an hour and a half north and an hour and a half south, he might drive, 3 hours in one day between those two projects and everything else he's got to do. Right. So that's where really our inefficiency comes in. And then we have, we'll throw things in there to kind of help us out when we need that. We'll have, maybe our acquisitions teams out there, in that area, doing an appointment. We'll have them run by and grab some pictures or something. But that's really where, our biggest issue right now is just we can't be everywhere at once. But as far as the efficiency of running the project, it's pretty down.
Yeah. So the verification, like the quality check, are you having your PMs do like once a week actually check in person on the projects?
A minimum of once a week, and so they'll hit it more times a week if they can. When we're running everything at a high volume, we want to make sure that we're checking things as regularly as possible, and so they try to touch it about 2 times a week. At 1 time a week is a minimum, and we don't rely on pictures unless we absolutely have to. As far as where they're at in a project, we really try not to do that because pictures lie, obviously. But like I said, it's not. What I do isn't perfect, but it's a hell of a lot more efficient than what everybody else is doing.
Permits, drawings, those are all put on to the contractors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's a way that you were able to scale it, because we were running with 2 project managers and construction manager, not nearly the volume you were, and we were inundated. Mm-hmm. So I'm already hearing some of the things you were doing better and different than we were.
Yeah, we put the work on it. We transfer the load where we can transfer the load.
Yep.
So.
So as far as like the scope of work or the like a day in the life of the project manager on like a weekly basis, so are they the ones cutting the checks too? Like,
no.
Do you have a bookkeeper doing that, or?
Yeah, I have a bookkeeper, and essentially the invoice comes in. Like I said, that Monday the bookkeeper will cut the check. They'll pre-cut it again because then we'll send that information off to our investors. If they've funded us the money, then it's just transparency. If they haven't, we're going to do our draw based on that information. And we get our draw based on what we pay out, period, whether it's installed or not. That's the other thing. Cause we buy cabinets, say we prepay for cabinets when we order. That's the only thing that our contractors don't do is our cabinets and our granite. Now they do actually, but originally they didn't. So that's something that will, we still get that. We get that money back, whether it's installed or not. I know some people will work with lenders and they'll be like, well, it's not installed, you don't get the money. No, we get the money back. And then our project managers will, go through and they'll be doing quality control. Like I said, they're not, as far as the scope of work, that was your question. As far as the scope of work goes, they will do a walkthrough with the contractor on a project. When it's in escrow, when we buy it, we always do things kind of right away. They'll do a walkthrough on the project. They'll discuss everything needs to be done. They both have a matching sheet. They'll go through and fill everything out that needs to be done, together. And then we get a line item bid. So we don't do a traditional scope of work like a lot of people sit down and they'll build a scope of work. We have a line item bid come back from the contractor. And again, I don't want $30,000 material and labor included on a piece of paper. To me, that doesn't do me any good. I don't know how many times I've gotten a bid like that. And I know we've talked about putting in new doors, and then I'll be like, where's the new doors? And like, oh, well, that wasn't in the bid. Well, how can I prove, even if the guy mistakenly didn't put in the bid, how can I prove that he did and he's not trying to screw me over if there's not transparency? And so if you come back and tell me that you only counted 10 lights, but there's 12, if I can't prove that, I think you're lying. That's just my nature. Right. So I've been screwed over so many times in this business that I just don't trust. I need the transparency. So we do line item bids, and you come back and tell me there was 12 lights and you counted 10. I look and there's only 10 on the bid. Hey, okay, put 2 more in and charge me for it. But anyway, line item bid, the project manager will sit down and they'll go through that line item bid when they get it in, and they'll make any corrections to it if anything needs to be added or taken out of that, and that becomes a scope of work. And, we have, like, I don't have it up, I would share it with you, but like I went through years ago, it was tedious, it sucked, but I went through Home Depot and I picked out all of our products, all of our colors, and I did option 1, option 2, option 3. I copied and pasted a link into an Excel spreadsheet. I had the pricing in there dialed, whether it was by piece or, by package. And literally the contractor could click a link and it would take them to Home Depot to that item. And that was the item. So a lot of that stuff was mapped out. We were very efficient in that aspect of it. We've since hired a designer that's $500 a project, and she'll source all the materials within our costs and our budget for the contractor. If it's not something that's part of our typical tile and colors and stuff like that, it's not part of our typical standard light fixtures and whatnot. But she'll source a lot of that stuff for us now. But either way, the whole point is we're removing variables, we're removing questions. We had this sheet. I mean, there's no question. These are the items you buy for this grade of property, and so it just, again, my project managers aren't thinking, they're not having to go through a scope of work and saying this one needs this light fixtures and this one needs that color and this one needs this. Like, we're removing those variables from them.
So with that, your acquisition team, do they use a similar sheet to that construction bid line item that you're discussing and talking about?
As far as when they're assessing the rehab or assessing the rehab?
Is it effectively the same sheet?
No, it's not. So what we did with that is we went through all of our projects, and we did an average of, okay, what is a light cosmetic? What is a full cosmetic? What's, if we're moving walls, if we have a worst case scenario. And we did these averages, and we kind of put together a formula, and of the grade of what they thought the project was going to be. And so it'd be times $18 a foot, times $24 a foot, times $32 a foot. A worst case scenario, house built before 1950 is going to be $55 a square foot. If we haven't been able to put our eyes on it, that's the formula we use, because we know typically that needs everything. And, from wiring to roof to AC to you name it. And so, and it's not a perfect science. There are times where, the formula the budget will be a little higher than our formula told us going to be. And there'll be times where the budget will be a little lower. And, we know that obviously once we get our hands on the project, we have to go back and renegotiate, or if we're going to make a little extra money, or if we're right on point.
Okay, so I love that. We did that as well. Certainly not to your level. And someone who's starting out new, how much data do you think that they actually need in order to start doing that at a high level? Because effectively, if you're not following what he just said, everyone that's listening, is he has now eliminated a ton of time for his acquisition team, because they don't have to go and line item each thing. They're just doing really quick analysis of a property, making an offer, and then they go in and analyze it. I'm assuming the contractor goes and does the actual analysis and confirms price for you. Right. So how much data do you need for someone who's starting out?
Well, for us to be dialed in, we had years of data, so it's not really fair. But for somebody that's brand new, if you're not in like San Francisco or some, New York or something crazy, if you go roughly $20 a foot, $24 a foot for a cosmetic, that's like, bathrooms, kitchens, flooring, paint, maybe some new doors and possibly some new windows. If you're roughly $20 a foot, $22 to $24 a foot, on your estimate, you're going to kind of be right in there. That does not include roof and AC units. Those are different animals. Roof well, right now roofs works, but usually it falls around $4 a foot on the house. But right now I'd probably estimate about 5, just because we have OSB costs that are higher and some of the things are a little crazy. But
crazy, yes,
yeah, crazy. So, but there's formulas for everything. So, like I said, $20 to $24 a foot, you're safe on a general cosmetic, property. If you have to move walls and it's really crazy, then you're probably going to want to talk to somebody in your market and start to get your head around what like a full blown, gut job or worst case scenario project is, because those can be different beasts, and in every market is going to be a little different. But again, the other thing to understand is everything's negotiable. So like, AC units, some companies want 10 grand, installed. We can have an AC unit installed on an average, 1,500 square foot house with ducting for around $6,500. So, roughly ballpark. And that's negotiated price. If you talk to anybody retail, that's going to be a $10,000, $12,000 job easily, if not more, if you get the wrong contractor. Windows, right now, everything's a little out of the norm, but in the norm, if you just count $300 per window, the moral story is I'm getting to is, I don't want to throw a bunch of numbers out to somebody's brand new, but everything has a formula to it. Everything has a kind of an average. We even got down to, we can go through and most people count all the plugs and switches in a house, right? I don't have the right number right off the top of my head, but I think we're like 30 cents a foot for the house. Don't quote me on that. I think it's been so long since I've looked at it, but we have a number on it. There's a certain cents per the square footage of times the square footage of the house. And that'll dead on pretty much give us how much it's going to cost us to install plugs and switches through the whole house.
So what I love about what you're saying is these numbers, these data, whether you have a lot of experience or no experience, right, can give you certainty, right? Or the other way you talked about it can give you the control, because effectively that's what we lack at times in our brains, of the control of a renovation, because there's so many moving parts.
Oh God, yes.
And you gain it when you have this more information. Right? Because there is more certainty, there's more control. So I love it. I that's the only way to scale it, and you've succeeded. So congratulations to you.
Thank you. And I want to be clear to anybody, like, I'm not a data person. I'm not a math person. I need spell check to spell, but it's just one of those things that once you wrap your head around, like, there's simplicity to everything we're doing, as long as you follow a certain system or process or mathematical equation, even in your marketing as an organization. If you're watching your KPIs, that data, I mean, once you start to see what that data does for your business, it's just mind blowing. And even the like me, who's not a data person, gets excited about it. So,
when you do, so real quick, I want to kind of highlight something here. When you get your acquisition people, do you require and just say, hey, we need a 20-day inspection period, a 10-day? How do you handle that with them?
We usually do. We usually do all our contracts 21 days or sooner. Is kind of how we standardize our contracts. We'll do it. We'll move as fast as anybody needs to move. I mean, we're pretty efficient as far as getting somebody out there and getting numbers together, and we're pretty dialed in on knowing what something's going to cost us at this point in time. Even our project managers. I mean, I can ask Lou, like, how much is it a foot or a square foot, for a yard for carpet, and he'll be able to tell me. He'll be able to tell me the yard. He'll be able to tell me the foot. How much is it to have those sliding doors installed? I mean, he just knows. We know the numbers so well now, but so the point is we can be pretty fast, but we do 21 days or sooner because we wholesale too now. So since 2018, we've been wholesaling, and we're, especially right now, guys. I mean, it's like, I'll tell my dispo guy, okay, if you can't get 50 in an assignment fee for that project, we're going to rehab it. He'll come back and he'll be like, I got 55. So, but we want to make sure we have time to decide our exit strategy. That's the only reason. That's honestly the only reason we try to do 21 days.
Yeah. So so 21 days on the inspection period, right?
Our contract's open-ended. So our inspection period is pretty much the whole time, but the way it's worded, but our inspection period built into the contract is 14 days.
Okay. Yeah. And one of the things I think that holds people back when they're kind of just starting out is like, oh, I have to know these repair figures the way a Don Costa does. I got news for you. Don Costa didn't know his repair numbers the way Don does now when he first started out. Okay. But to take away some of the fear or some of the uncertainty, you have that 14-day inspection period in there, guys. And then that's the time, bring the contractor in now and verify that the repair numbers are right. Because if they're not, just make sure that you get those figures back within that inspection period. And if you have to back out, you have to back out. Right. But
or renegotiate.
Well, yeah. First step would be renegotiate. And if they don't agree, then back out of the thing. Right.
Right.
But you don't have to be fearful of, oh my gosh, I did $20 a square foot and I missed this wall or whatever. And then it's really $35 a square foot on this home. Well, okay, well then renegotiate or back out of the contract. It's that simple. Not being fully certain and not knowing, 100% certainty on your repair numbers should not stop you from making offers and getting deals under contract.
No, I want to just back that up. I 100% agree. I'm a jump off the cliff and build the airplane on the way down kind of guy. That's the way. That's my MO. That's how I operate. I didn't know any of this stuff when I first started. I made so many mistakes. I had projects run a hell of a lot longer than they should have. I've had contractors take advantage of me. I've had every horror story, and it's all worth it. Every single bit of it's worth it. I lost everything. I had $1 million judgment against me when I started back up that I had to overcome. It's all worth it. The life I have now, the freedom I have, the business that I have, the knowledge that I have, it's all worth it. Every single bit of it, every single struggle, every single mistake, every single dollar lost, it's all worth it. And the only thing that you're going to regret is not starting and not taking action, not taking massive imperfect action. You are not going to regret the mistakes. I guarantee it.
So let's run with that. What is the biggest, if you had to pinpoint one, the biggest mistake you made?
Ever? Being an idiot. You missed the first part of this. So I was.
Yeah, I apologize.
I was a tool. Yeah, no, I lost everything in 2008, and it was because I was. Look, you can't take anything for granted. You can't take a day, a breath, a minute. You can't take anything for granted, right? And especially money. You can't take money for granted. You just can't. And in business, there's cycles, there's ebb and flows. When you think you got to figure it out, the market. Look at COVID. I mean, geez, the market throws a curveball at you. And suddenly you don't have it figured out, and you have to relearn it. This is always a game of, learning. It's failing and learning and failing and learning. And as long as you're okay with that, you're going to be very successful. I don't know one person that's ever built something that wasn't given to them, that didn't fail, probably more than they won. And that's just a fact of it. If you're willing to do it and you're willing to pivot and you're willing to continue to grow, you're going to be successful. It's when you stop doing that you're gonna really have horrible things happen. And for me, being a tool, thinking I touched everything everything I touched turned to gold, and basically blowing money as fast as it came in, that was the biggest mistake I ever made. Now in my business, I think where I tend to make a mistake and I really fight myself not to do it is when something's going really good as an entrepreneur. I want to break it and make it better. And I think that's a disease we all have, right? We want to scale, and do more and do this and do that. It's just letting something good be good.
So is that where you're at now? Are you at the point where, you've done enough renovations? 130 is a phenomenal amount. Are you to the point where, hey, I'm good. That's enough?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I want to do. So, I run a high level I run a mastermind. I'm starting to do some coaching education. And, so now it's like, I don't need to grow, more on the business side of the real estate, organization. I actually want to try to make more money and have my team have to do less work is kind of where we're at, more efficiencies. At the point I'm at right now, it's not about doing more volume. It's about putting more money in the bank. And I want to dial that in even more. I think we do a really good job of that now, but I want to put more money in the bank. And I just, I'm not confident in the market right now. The market's on fire and we're capitalizing on that in a lot of ways, but the underlying, issues that we're all seeing, that are going to obviously have an effect on the market down the road. We don't know what that is or when it's going to happen. I know there's going to be huge opportunities. I want to be poised to take advantage of those opportunities. I didn't do that in 2008. I stuck my head in the sand, and that's one of my biggest regrets. And so I want to be poised to take advantage of those opportunities. And so right now, like I said, it's just about keeping more money, being in the right projects, being smart about every move I make. And it's not about being the biggest player on the block.
I love that. So I have a question for you. And guys, if you all have any questions, feel free to chat them in as well. So to pivot a little bit, so like how would you define, like, can you explain your system for actually finding contractors? Like, do you do marketing? Like, what do you do to kind of fill that pipeline, to have options to choose from on contractors?
We do everything. I mean, we've done marketing. We're not doing it right now, but we've done marketing. You can do Craigslist post. We do driving for contractors. See, when we're out driving neighborhoods, if you see somebody, working on a property, and you get the number off the truck, or you go introduce yourself. Usually 9 times out of 10, you're going to find the crew there, but I generally get a card for the contractor. If you're in a store parking lot and there's a truck, we'll snap a picture of the back of the truck and call the guy. It's funny. If somebody has a really, really nice truck, I won't bother. So that's usually a contractor I want to work with. But we've done it all. Craigslist. I mean, Craigslist has been a great source for finding contractors, believe it or not. But it's the process, right? So the first phone call is straight up like, this is who we are and this is what we do. And like 50% of the people or more are going to disqualify themselves right out of the gate. We always talk about with acquisitions, you want to get to the know, right? Because you're finding the people who have the problems you can solve, and you're trying to weed out the people who aren't people you want to work with. Same thing with the contractors. You want to get to the know. You want to tell them right out of the gate. Like, a lot of people try to hide, like, what we do. It's like, no, I'm a rehabber. I'm looking for a good contractor to work with. Somebody's going to show up when they would say they're going to show up, and they're going to give me fair pricing. I don't need to rip you off. I want you to make money, but I can't pay retail either. I'm a wholesale price guy. Is that something you can live with? And if they basically say, hey, we worked with rehabbers and they're all crooks, because some rehabbers are crooks, just like some contractors are crooks. Let's be real. The reason why contractors are the way they are a lot of times is because they've been taken advantage of. The reason why I'm the way I am is because I've been taken advantage of. So, we have that conversation, and if they disqualify themselves, then they disqualify themselves. If they try to tell me that a rehabber's a crook, I don't try to convince them differently. I just move on. Then we get down to the people that are willing to talk, and we'll basically, okay, so, we need wholesale pricing. You're good with that, and this is what we're looking for in a contractor. You're good with that. And okay, so let's see a couple of projects. I want to see a project that they're working on, a project that they're finished. And if all that goes well, like we talked about in the beginning, I get to the end, I find somebody that's teachable and coachable, then we give them one project, people, one project. That is it. We don't give them 2. We don't give them 3. I don't care how good he is in the middle of that project. I don't give him another one until he finishes it. Because I'm looking for so many things. Okay. If you've been rehabbing for a long time, you find contractors that are cash flowing, right? Cash flowing projects because they ran out of money on a project because they've done something stupid. They've underbid it, overpaid it, or went on vacation with the money. And now they need the next project to pay the bills from the first project. I'm looking for that kind of stuff. How desperate are they for the next project? Are they sticking to their word? Are they finishing? Is the quality there? And then if they do project number 1 properly, then I give them project number 2. I still, on project number 2, will not give them more than one project. That's where I'm really looking to see if they're trying to cash flow me or they're trying to play any games. And then after project number 2, then I might start to layer in a couple of projects on them. But a lot of people will like somebody and they'll throw 3 projects on them and the wheels will come off the bus. And so again, if you notice, we're very methodical and we don't rush anything. We don't rush the relationship. And I want to be clear, like, when I communicate with these guys, when I communicate with anybody, I try to look through their lens, right? As a contractor, your fear is that you're going to do this work and you're not going to get paid. As a rehabber, our fear is we're going to pay you and you're not going to do the work. And so when I communicate with them, I don't come in and tell them this is the law of the land. I come in and say, this is the reason why we do things, is to make sure that we're both protected and you get your money. And what better way to get paid than every week, right? And so how I communicate with them is different. I try to see it through their lens. I try to frame it in a manner that gets them on my side when we're doing things. And then through the entire project, when I'm teaching, I'm coaching, I'm not the one doing it anymore, but Lucius is, we're teaching, we're coaching, we're guiding them. And if they continue to be teachable and coachable, then like I said, we'll get them to a point where we'll layer more projects on them. If I really, 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 really like you though, like if for some reason I really like you when we first have a conversation, I am not hiring you, because everybody I've really, really liked when I've hired them has always been bad. Always been bad.
So, you bring up a good point about not giving or hiring them for multiple jobs. I too have felt that, done that. And how long did it take you to get to that point where you understood that? Because candidly, I still can't get that out of my head. It's like, it's not because I necessarily like them. It's like, oh, here's an easy path to more projects, right? It's the easiest path, but it's hard. So how long did that take you to learn?
Longer than it probably should have. I tend to beat my head against brick wall longer. Like I said, I make it sound easy now. I talk about it, but it took me probably a good couple of years to really it was when I learned that we need to set people up for success and not failure. It's our job as leaders to set people up for success, to train them properly, to start the relationship properly. To lead properly. And if we're taking somebody that's brand new and has never worked with us, it's obviously going to tell us whatever we want to hear and try to impress us. And then we layer a whole bunch of crap on them, and we don't know or understand their ability and they come up short. We can't blame them. It's on us as leaders. And I don't want to be a bad leader. So it's disciplines, man. Like, look, I'm human. There are times where I want to jump when I shouldn't jump. There are times where I want to add more to my plate when I shouldn't add more to my plate. There are times where I want to add more to a contractor's plate when I shouldn't. And, I'm not guilty. I'm guilty of it just like anybody else. But the point is we built these disciplines and these understandings, and I just look at it and go, okay, am I doing him justice? Even though he's asking for another job and he's doing a great job right now, am I doing him justice by giving him one right now? Or am I setting him up for failure?
Okay, so timeline of that. Someone's doing a really good job. You say you can do another good job once it's finished. So are you actually having them even bid during that process, or not even have them bid and look at another project until they're finished?
Oh, we'll talk to them about the next projects. We'll have them bid. I want them to know that there's more coming. I don't want them to feel like we're a one and done, and I'm telling them that they're going to have an opportunity. I want to make sure that we're showing them they're going to have the opportunity, but I'm also not promising. I'm saying this, come in and let's with the numbers on this one. And if this first one turns out well and the timeline lines up, then, hey, we can give you this project.
So real quick, guys, we've had a couple questions come through. What I can't remember. You've told me this before, and now here I can't remember. What part of the what Mark?
We got a visitor here.
How's it going?
Jason says hello.
All right.
Where are you investing at? What's your local market?
So I'm in Fresno, California. Okay. That's where I'm home based. But we're pretty much like we're in the Bay Area of California. We go from Sacramento to Bakersfield, and now we're in Tennessee. So we've already started. We're wholesaling in Tennessee, but we've already done a few deals out in Tennessee, and we're up in Oregon. So I'm trying to take over the country, guys, slowly but surely.
Why'd we get this guy on here?
I'm just kidding. I'm gonna be in St. Louis next week, by the way.
Yeah.
I actually have to be in St. Louis next week, but I'm not going to be doing deals there. Don't worry. I'm going to be Sean McCloskey's got something going on. I'm going to be out there next week.
Oh, right on.
If you want to do some deals, we can sell you some. So don't worry.
Okay.
Oh, that's great. Ryan, do you have any other questions, anything like that? We're getting close to time here.
I honestly don't. I want to highlight a couple of things that you've pointed out, if you don't mind. I've taken some notes. One thing that we love to talk about, Jim and I, is, doing one thing well. You've mentioned that, and you do the two things. So, you've gotten there quicker than Jim and I, because we still aren't down to two things. And I loved one of the things you said was scaling broke. A lot of people scale broke, and a lot of people love to scale just because they are chasing someone else's highlight reel. That was another thing I wrote that you mentioned.
Yeah, it's true. And we're all guilty of trying to do that. And it comes down to disciplines, man. Just knowing what your goal is, know what you want, so you don't create a prison. I mean, it's important.
Yeah, no, you've got a lot of great nuggets. I appreciate your time. It's been awesome. Is there anything you wanted to end with?
Just, I don't know the audience that's going to listen to this, where their level is at. If you're brand new, take massive imperfect action. You go for the life you want. Don't lay your deathbed with regret. I mean, like I said, I have failed more than most people will ever fail in their life. And I'm telling you right now that I have zero regrets. It is totally worth it. It's made me a better person, a better husband, father, business owner. We, as entrepreneurs, we don't know how to run a business. No one taught us. School doesn't teach us. We didn't come from money. Our family didn't teach us. And so but we're hard on ourselves. When we think we should know it day one. And it's taken me, the better part of, probably close to 20 years to learn how to be a good business person. And the education, the time, and the failures were worth it. I'm going to do amazing things with the knowledge now. So for those of you who are running businesses right now, quit thinking in the box. Okay. Because somebody told you had to have skin in the game, or this is the way it's supposed to run, or you're supposed to pay a deposit. Doesn't mean you have to. It's your business. Figure out what's best for your business, and then frame the conversation to get everybody on board. run the business you want to run, because that at the end of the day, it's about your happiness and your success. What the hell are you running a business for if you're going to be miserable? So it's not worth it. That's my thoughts.
I love it. Mic drop.
Yeah, no, I love it. Yeah. Hey, I appreciate you, Don. Thank you for coming on. Flip Talk, I think you have your own podcast, Flip Talk.
Flip Talk.
And then Don Costa, I think if you just Google him and put in investing in there, you'll come across his website. What's your website again?
Fliptalk.com is the website. Okay. Yeah. And then I have beinthisroom.com if you're interested in talking about the mastermind. You want to check that out. But I have 4 years of the podcast content everywhere, at the real Don Costa on Instagram. I love having conversations about this, so you can find me just about anywhere now.
I appreciate you, Don. Thank you for your time, and have a great day, man.
Thanks, Don. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thank you.
So guys, for this particular show, go to doorstodeals.com/030. Again, that's doorstodeals.com/030. Go out, live your purpose, and above all else, go after your dreams. Till next time. Thanks for tuning into this show. For more episodes and resources that will unlock Doors to Deals, check out our website, doorstodeals.com.